Call the meeting to order. The chairperson, Kalima, is out of town, returning expected last minute. So I will be chairing the meeting this evening. Do you want to do the roll call?
Commencing roll call now. Rebecca Caraves. Marco Durazo.
Here.
Michael Fisher.
Here.
Alexis Lewis. Bill Mickler.
Here.
Shirley Melnico.
Here.
Robert Solano.
Here.
James Simmons.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next order of business is general public comment.
We will now move on to item number 2, general public comment. This item is reserved for persons wishing to address the Independent Civilian Advisory Commission on a topic within jurisdiction of the Commission, but that is not on the agenda. Public comments on matters on the agenda shall be heard at the time the matter is called. Please fill out a speaker slip, or those of you joining online, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom. The Commission may not discuss or take action on items not on the agenda. And do note, we did receive 2 written public comments prior to the meeting, and they were shared with commissioners and posted to the Independent Civilian Advisory Commission website at smcgov.org/ICAC. We will begin with public comments in person. I'd like to call Jim Lawrence up to the podium. You have 2 minutes to speak. You may need to press the button. Oh.
Testing 1, 2. Good. Good evening again. For the record, my name is Jim Lawrence. I'm the board chair at Fix in San Mateo County. Members of the advisory committee, as you convene here tonight, discuss issues affecting our community, I want you to begin to reflect on a recent public event that just happened and we all witnessed on the national stage. In that presidential election, despite the pressures and complexities of a high-stake campaign, one candidate consistently voiced an unwavering commitment, prioritizing the public interest above all. Her focus is on serving the American people. It reminds me of the trust we hold in you and the roles that you play. Your duty, like hers, is to ensure that every decision you make reflects the needs, the hopes, and the voices of those you serve. As representatives of this community, we expect you to act in good faith, putting aside any personal or political inclinations, and working in the best interest of the community. Please carry this forward tonight and into the future. As you address your agenda, set your work plan, seek solutions to truly to benefit our community, and uphold the responsibility we've all entrusted in you. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one more speaker slip. Connie Guerrero, you can come up to the podium. You have 2 minutes to speak.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Connie Guerrero. I'm a resident of San Carlos. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters, South San Mateo County Chapter. I'm the VP of Programs, past president. And I am here to give you an update as to the work that the League of Women Voter volunteers did for the past election. I have a report from Betsy Colby, who's the president but could not be here today. So what we did was we had volunteers from our league that were invited to help register inmates. We went to the Maple Street Correctional Center 3 times and visited 1 floor each time. We collected about 30 voter registration forms each time, and these were delivered directly to the elections office on Tower Road. We heard that an additional 10 voter registrations forms were collected at Maple Street. The officer who escorted us was very friendly and knowledgeable. The process of visiting each wing took time because we needed to get access, permission to each of the 4 wings in sequence. The incarcerated people were very appreciative of having people come to answer questions and help them register and understand the election process. We do have a few things that we learned that we will probably be implementing next election, if we get access to the correctional facilities, and that's something that we're going to be working with our chapter and other working with other groups so that we can partner together and do more work earlier. But that's all. I kind of wanted to let you know that we did do that work, that we're very grateful to have had the opportunity to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to public comment on Zoom, we have 3 hands raised. I'd like to begin with Eric Sapp, followed by Paul Bocanegra. Eric Sapp, you may begin when you're ready.
Hello. I'm not sure if you can hear me. Eric Sapp, Legal Services for Prisoners with Children. I applaud the League of Women's Voters for its voter registration efforts in the Maple Street Jail. I think there's still a need for a thorough assessment and accounting of the numbers of actual eligible registrations relative to eligible population and actual voting turnout relative to registered voters in the jails. I think neither the election office nor the community orgs that have gone in, nor the sheriff's department has been able to collect that data. I think a coordination between the elections office, as their officials have indicated, and the sheriff's department will be needed to do that. I think that could happen either through this body inviting the elections department and the sheriff's department to jointly, collaborate on preparing a report for this body. Alternatively, this body could recommend to the Board of Supervisors that it resolve to create a study that will get concrete, comprehensive figures about voting in the jail. The need for this is indicated by the historically low numbers in this county relative to a neighbor like San Francisco. And last but not least, I think there still remain concerns about language access in terms of the information that incarcerated individuals in the jail have about their voting rights. It's not clear that languages other than English are effectively communicated by the sheriff's department officials who are facilitating the jail visits for registration. In any case, this is still a topic that will continue to be of concern even though election season is over. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll move on to Paul Bocanegra, followed by our last speaker, Bill Newell. Paul, you may begin when you're ready.
Good evening, Civilian Oversight Commissioners, and thank you for your service. I wanted to just take this moment of public comment. Well, first of all, my name is Paul Bocanegra, and I'm speaking to you as the Youth Outreach Manager of an organization that works with system-impacted youth and system-impacted people. And I wanted to just make a request to the Commission to consider advocating for the reinstatement of a traditional mail system at the jail here in San Mateo County. The current electronic mail system, while intended to modernize communication, has significant drawbacks that hinder rehabilitation, family reunification, and public safety. The system fails to support rehabilitative needs of incarcerated individuals. Instead of fostering meaningful connections with family members, it further isolates individuals by creating a barrier to clear and personal communication. The electronic system is impersonal, often unreliable, and burdensome to families, especially those without the resources to engage it effectively. Moreover, the system does not promote public safety, and it instead casts every individual incarcerated as untrustworthy and dangerous, perpetuating a cycle of dehumanization rather than rehabilitation. Effective communication through traditional mail could help restore dignity, enhance family bonds, and foster positive reintegration into society. I urge the Commission to consider long-term impacts of the current policy and advocate for the return of a normal mail system, one that supports the goals of rehabilitation, family reunification, and public safety. I have lived experience. I spent 25 and a half years from juvenile to the age of 42 before I returned from those same cages that those people are living in down the street from our home, and I think that we could do better. Thank you so much. You have a good night.
Thank you. Last speaker, Bill Newell. You may begin when you're ready.
Thank you very much, and good evening to the advisory committee. Thank you for all the great work that you are continuing to work on. I want to just add to some previous comments that Eric made and Ms. Guerrero made, and that is, I think there's steps are being made, but I want to point out that in my own efforts to learn more about the voting rights of the inmates in both McGuire and Maple Street, that I learned from the elections office that they've told me that there's a long-standing relationship with the sheriff's office in terms of providing material to inmates within both facilities. What we don't know, though, is how many people are actually getting informed, how many people really want to know more about voting, how many people actually are able to get registered, and once they are registered, how many people actually get to vote, fill out their ballots, and then are able to have those ballots submitted and counted in elections. I applaud your efforts. I noticed that in your upcoming retreat, it looks like you have some items added here. A couple of them that you noted was election flyers need to be posted in the men's facility. During a tour, it was noted that it was only visible in the women's facility, and it looks like you've also noted that there needs to be a facilitation of data between the sheriff's office and the elections office. So certainly those would be good first steps. I also think we need to continue to be concerned about the access and the transparency within the jail for community organizations such as Legal Services for Prisoners with Children, who have actively been trying to provide voter assistance to inmates and have been continually put off by the sheriff's office, and then ultimately did not provide them access after several months of effort where they were led to believe that they would be able to get in. So I think we need to remember, consider what we're doing.
Thank you very much. That's the end of
you.
your comment period.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all. Was that the last public comment?
Last call for public comment. We have no more hands raised.
No more public comment. Thank you for everyone who commented both in person and online in the general public comment. Next item on the agenda is a motion to approve the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second? Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a presentation of additional onboarding foundational information. The Sheriff's Office Division's Professional Standards Bureau regarding staffing, recruitment, employee wellness.
Testing. Hello. My name is Heather Enders. I am the Human Resources Manager here at the Sheriff's Office, and Detective Garcia and I are really excited to be here tonight. I've been with the Sheriff's Office for a little over 3 years, and Detective Garcia has 2 decades on with the Sheriff's Office. Envious.
Not that old.
We work for the Professional Standards Bureau, and I'm really excited to tell you all a little bit more about it. Who is switching slides so I can give you cues? I'm ready for the next one. Okay, great. Thank you so much. So the Professional Standards Bureau serves as the Human Resources Division within a police department, or in our case, the Sheriff's Office, acting as the cornerstone of internal accountability. Our mission is to uphold the highest ethical standards and professionalism within law enforcement by overseeing the conduct of deputies and staff throughout their careers. Our work begins at the very start of a deputy's career, during the recruitment and hiring process. In addition to this role, we are responsible for conducting internal investigations, providing oversight on deputy conduct, implementing disciplinary actions, leading policy development and ensuring compliance, and overseeing training and ethic programs. Under the leadership of Sheriff Corpus, significant strides have been made to strengthen and revitalize our recruitment efforts. Prior to her election, our recruitment initiatives had yet to fully recover from the setbacks caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. One of Sheriff Corpus's first actions upon taking office was to prioritize recruitment by investing in additional staff and dedicating resources to a comprehensive marketing campaign and recruitment strategy. Since March of 2023, we've maintained a sharp focus on recruitment, ensuring that our efforts are consistent, strategic, and fully committed to building a strong ethical workforce for the department. And I want to poke fun a little bit at the photo on the left. That's Professional Standards Bureau is essentially the cameraman behind the umbrella where all the magic actually happens. So that's us, Professional Standards Bureau, always behind the camera. Ready for the next one. Across the country, law enforcement agencies are grappling with a staffing crisis, and the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office is no exception. Several factors contribute to the challenges that we face in attracting and retaining qualified personnel. San Mateo County is uniquely positioned between 2 major economic hubs, Silicon Valley to the south and San Francisco to the north. The central location makes the county highly desirable for people working in the tech industry who want to live close to both areas. As a result, the demand for housing has skyrocketed, yet the county's limited space only exacerbates the problem. With a relatively small land area and a highly sought-after lifestyle, including abundant parks, beaches, and a mild climate, the demand for housing near these amenities has become intense. Naturally, this increased demand pushes home prices and rental rates to unaffordable levels. To put it simply, there's not enough new housing being built to meet demand, which drives up the cost of living and makes it harder for people, including law enforcement officers, to afford housing in the area. In addition to the housing crisis, there's a significant pay disparity between the County of San Mateo and its neighboring cities, such as Redwood City and the City of San Mateo. For similar roles, these cities often offer higher salaries than the county can provide. This gap is further exacerbated by the competitive wages offered by the private sector, particularly in tech and other high-paying industries, which often exceed what the county can afford to offer. While the county provides the job security and benefits typically associated with public sector employment, its budgetary constraints limit our ability to match the salaries offered by nearby cities. In contrast, cities like Redwood City and San Mateo, which benefit from thriving commercial sectors and stronger local revenue streams, have more flexibility in their budgets. This enables them to offer higher salaries, especially in specialized roles, as part of their effort to attract and retain top talent. The combination of high living costs and the lower salaries at the county means that over half of the sheriff's office employees live outside of San Mateo County. This adds additional challenges, including longer commutes, reduced quality of life, and increased stress as they contend with the demands of their profession while facing a higher cost of living. Furthermore, many law enforcement officers and staff are competing for housing with individuals working in the private sector who often earn significantly more. This only intensifies the financial strain on sheriff's office personnel, further diminishing morale and increasing turnover. When Sheriff Corpus took office in 2023, one of her first priorities was to sit down with the Professional Standards Bureau and listen to our concerns about the challenges we faced in attracting quality candidates for correctional officer and deputy positions. She acknowledged the pay disparity between our county and our neighboring cities, as well as the high cost of living in the area, but she kept on asking us, what else? I can say with confidence that for every obstacle we raised, Sheriff Corpus supported us in finding solutions without compromising or lowering our standards. For instance, after extensive discussions about our written requirements, we realized that candidates with a higher education degree would likely have the skills needed to meet the demands of report writing that comes with the job. As a result, we decided to eliminate the written exam requirement for applicants who hold a degree from an accredited college or university. Another issue we highlighted was the lack of a centralized point of contact for communicating with candidates. We were losing valuable opportunities because we were relying on outdated communication methods. In today's world, text messaging is the preferred way to reach potential candidates. Sheriff Corpus agreed and authorized us to enter into a contract with Interview Now, a company that provides a chatbot to gather basic information from candidates such as their name, contact details, and the job they're interested in. This has allowed us to engage with candidates in real time rather than relying on email inboxes, voicemails, or comment boxes on our website. Sheriff Corpus also recognized the need to streamline our background investigation process. She supported us in removing bottlenecks by allowing us to conduct either virtual or in-person interviews, depending on the candidate's preferences. Additionally, we were able to issue a request for proposals to bring in more background investigation companies, expanding our team to include over 25 contractors and adding 10 more to our internal staff of background investigators. Through these efforts, Sheriff Corpus has shown a commitment to not only addressing the immediate challenges we face in recruitment, but also ensuring that we maintain the high standards necessary to serve our community effectively. For some background, in 2015, Sheriff Corpus launched the first ever women's boot camp at the Sheriff's Office, designed to introduce women into the field of law enforcement. When she ran for sheriff, she made it a priority to continue this initiative with the goal of opening doors for more women interested in pursuing a career in law enforcement. To further this mission, the sheriff quickly signed the 30 by 30 pledge, which commits to having 30% women in law enforcement by the year 2030. This year alone, we've hired 13 individuals who participated in our free boot camp, and we currently have 12 more candidates in the background process. I should note that we also hosted one co-ed boot camp this year after much interest from men also interested in the program. Additionally, the sheriff expanded the summer internship program in 2024, which has proven to be a direct career pathway for many of our sheriff's office employees. Over the past 2 years, the recruitment team has worked tirelessly to find qualified candidates. We've traveled to career fairs, colleges, high schools, academies, and military bases. Essentially, we've explored every avenue to us in our search for top talent. To further expand on the innovative ideas that Sheriff Corpus has been willing to try, I'm going to let Detective Garcia tell you a little bit about the LEX program partnership that we have with Sacramento State University.
Good evening. So we were looking at outside-the-box solutions for our recruiting issues. We did some research and found a program at Sac State University who actually has the largest criminal justice program west of the Mississippi. And they have a program that's one of a kind. It's led by Dr. Moffitt, who was a former Sac PD officer and then got his doctorate and became a professor at Sac State. What the program does is it's the Sac State Law Enforcement Candidate Scholars Program. So it's a law enforcement leadership program that is for any student at Sac State who has a criminal justice major and is a sophomore, junior, or senior. So basically what we do every Friday, we get together with them and we kind of give them a mini academy experience. So they sign up, it's actually a class within Sac State University. We give them physical agility tests just like they would in an academy, whether it's the going over the wall, which some people have problems with, and we help them through those issues. So we do that in the morning, and then after lunch we do a workshop. Currently there's 5 agencies that are part of this LEX program. We actually signed a memorandum of understanding with them, and it's us, San Francisco PD, Elk Grove PD, SAC PD, and the SAC Sheriff's Office. So when we get together in the afternoon, we do a workshop. So one of the 5 agencies every 5th week takes a topic. I've done DUI investigations. We've done emergency vehicle operations. Just this last Saturday, we were able to bring this 47 students from Sac State here to our location and showed them all of our facilities, gave them a tour of the jail, and actually give them the actual experience of what it's like and what our culture is all about. So, and within those weeks, I get a better perspective and a rapport with these young people that when they do graduate, we actually have a connection with them. It's not just an applicant off the street that has no idea who I am and we don't know who they are besides what we get in their background. I'll give you an example of a student. Currently, we became part of this program last fall, and we've hired 2 people from there currently that are currently working for us now. We have 1 in backgrounds, and actually 2 in backgrounds and 7 that are going to interview with us. But we had a student that came to us, and we started her background this last spring. She got through the process until we got to the medical portion of it. She was a student, still at Sac State. We were trying to finish up her background. We found out that when she went to the medical portion of it, that she didn't meet the vision requirements. So what she needed to do is she needed to have soft contact lenses and not be able to wear glasses. So between us, and she didn't have medical insurance, she didn't have the money to pay for the contact lenses. So between us and Sac State LEX program, we were able to actually finance and get her money so she was able to get those contact lenses, so we were able to hire her. So those are the type of initiatives that the sheriff is doing and is willing to help out these students and people from all different walks of life with different life experiences to come work for us. So currently, like I said, with the Sac State LEX program, we've hired 2. We have 7 in backgrounds, and 7 in interview process and 2 in backgrounds currently. So it's a pretty successful program for us.
So I want to give you a clear picture of the challenges that we faced with sworn staff vacancies over the past 2 years. When the sheriff took office, we were facing a crisis. Over 90 sworn staff vacancies in January of 2023, which means we had 1 vacancy for every 6 positions filled. This was unprecedented in the history of the sheriff's office. The vacancy rate was at an all-time high, morale was extremely low, and we were forced to implement mandatory overtime policies. Attrition was also high, and the department was struggling to meet its staffing needs. Our vacancy rate reached its peak in January of this year, when we hit 100 sworn staff vacancies. It was a difficult period for our office, but through the leadership of Sheriff Corpus and the dedication of our team, we've made significant strides. The turnaround didn't happen overnight. Recruitment, interviews, background checks, and hiring, those all take time, especially for sworn staff. Once new recruits are hired, it takes a minimum of a year to get them fully trained and certified before they can work independently in the field. However, after months of tireless effort, we are now seeing the results of our hard work. As of the last pay period, we have reduced our sworn staff vacancies to just 44, with 10 more recruits expected to start in the first week of December. Additionally, nearly 50 more candidates are in the final stages of their background investigations. This progress would not have been possible without the strong support of Sheriff Corpus and some innovative thinking that allowed us to overcome all of the barriers we were facing. We've come a long way in a short period of time, but we know that the work is far from over. We're focused on continuing to build this momentum to ensure we're fully staffed and able to meet the needs of our community. Thanks to the progress we've made in hiring, we now have some much needed breathing room to focus on retaining the staff that we've brought on board and ensure their well-being so that they can continue to take care of the communities that we serve. Our staff face some of the toughest, most heart-wrenching situations, responding to people during their worst life moments. We understand how difficult and emotionally draining these calls can be, so we've taken concrete steps to support our staff. In direct response to these challenges, the sheriff has authorized us to partner with a licensed therapist who's available 24/7 to provide immediate support to our staff, acting as a first line of defense until those staff members can connect with an insurance-covered therapist. The therapist provides support on any topic, and it is completely confidential to our staff. She bills us in a discreet way that does not reveal identifying information of our staff. We've also expanded our peer support group to ensure there are always experienced colleagues ready to lend an ear. Recognizing the importance of financial well-being, we've added a partnership with a financial education company, offering resources and guidance to help staff manage their personal finances. We also provide free on-site gyms at both of our correctional facilities to encourage physical fitness and stress relief. In addition, we offer what's called a flop house. It's a safe, free place for deputies or correctional officers to rest and crash between shifts, especially for those who have long commutes or challenging schedules. This year, we were also able to secure grants that paid for full body scans of our correctional officers, prioritizing their health and their long-term wellness. And to further promote well-being, we've launched a wellness program for all of our staff, which this year included 15-minute on-site massages to provide relaxation and stress relief during their workday. These initiatives are just a few of the ways we're working to ensure our team is supported both physically and mentally so that they can, again, continue serving with dedication and resilience. In addition to all of our wellness initiatives, Sheriff Corpus also introduced 2 family days this summer, giving employees the opportunity to bring their loved ones for a fun-filled day of relaxation and camaraderie. To accommodate our various shifts, we hosted 2 separate events, both of which were highly attended and well received by staff and their families. These events were a great way to strengthen bonds within the department and create a sense of community among colleagues and their families. Last year, Sheriff Corpus took a bold step in addressing one of the most significant barriers to a career in law enforcement, childcare. Recognizing that balancing family responsibilities with the demanding, often unpredictable hours of a law enforcement career is challenging for both men and women. The sheriff laid the groundwork for a first-of-its-kind Sheriff's Office Child Care Center. This center is designed to offer extended hours to accommodate the long shifts law enforcement professionals work, providing a critical support system for all of our staff. Additionally, the sheriff has worked to subsidize the cost of care to make it affordable for our employees. The goal is to ease the financial burden on our staff, enabling them to potentially live within county and help support our recruitment and retention efforts. By providing high-quality, affordable childcare, we hope to make it easier for our employees to establish roots in San Mateo County, ensuring that we have the personnel needed, especially during times of crisis or emergencies, to serve and protect our community effectively. This initiative represents a major step towards creating a more sustainable and supportive environment for our team. Just last month, the Board of Supervisors heard a report from the Commission on the Status of Women, indicating that a lack of affordable childcare is one of the top issues driving women's inequality. Following the Commission's presentation, the county sent out a news release citing the quote-unquote caregiver penalty as one of the 3 key drivers of the wealth gap. The Commission identified lowering the cost of quality childcare as one of the main solutions to this ongoing challenge. While the focus of this presentation wasn't necessarily our training unit, I do want to highlight a few recent training initiatives that truly reflect our commitment to thinking outside of the box and equipping our employees with the tools that they all need to succeed. One example is our Spanish tactical training designed to give non-Spanish speaking deputies the skills to communicate more effectively in the field. This training has been invaluable in fostering stronger connections with our community and improving safety. We also have offered emotional intelligence training for our hiring managers, which is a key component of our recruitment strategy. This is particularly important because Sheriff Corpus is not only looking to hire candidates who can just check boxes or give the right answers in an interview, she's looking for people with heart. People who are more focused on being guardians than enforcers. Emotional intelligence plays a vital role in identifying candidates who align with this vision and are better equipped to handle the complex, emotionally charged situations that law enforcement officers face. Lastly, we offered free one-on-one report writing sessions for any correctional officers interested in promoting to deputy, as well as for deputy trainees who are struggling with report writing during their academy or field training. This approach has helped to ensure that our staff are fully prepared for advancement and can meet the high standards we set for all of our personnel. These training initiatives reflect our commitment not just to meeting the immediate needs of our employees, but also empowering them for long-term success and professional growth. This slide is meant to give you a clearer picture of our demographics and provide a breakdown of the number of individuals within our sworn positions. Here you can see our chain of command structure, which illustrates the distribution of roles across our 593 sworn positions. Again, as of now, we have 44 positions vacant, which is a significant improvement from where we were in January of this past year. I want to pause here and just give you all an opportunity to ask questions. If you have questions about this particular slide or up until this point, I am wrapping up soon, so you'll have more opportunities, but just wanted to pause. Great. You can go to the next.
Rob?
I have a few easy ones.
Okay. We'll take the hard ones too.
Softballs. What would you say are your 3 top problems that you have in recruitment and retention?
Recruitment and retention. I'll let you chime in here too. I don't want to be a mic hog, but I would
How can we
say-
help you with recruitment and retention?
So I think the number one thing that we see right now, and even for myself, I live in Folsom, California. So I do a 2-hour commute to work. So that's our number one, I believe, probably is our number one challenge that we currently have with recruiting individuals, also retaining individuals. So even like we get some of the young adults that come work for us, but they're living at home, right? And sooner or later, they want to start their own family. And when that happens, they tend to, try to find a place where they can actually afford a home. And they tend to move out to Tracy, to Lathrop, to the Central Valley, and out to the Sacramento area is where we have a lot of people living and making that commute. So I think that's our number one. The thing that I've, in recruiting and talking to different agencies across, we talk to agencies across the United States, but also here in California. One of the biggest recruiting tools we currently have right now is that child care center. I probably have 30 to 40 lateral officers that will be willing to come over here to work for us once that child care center goes online. It opens up the doors to a lot of things. Number one, they'll get great child care at a reduced price. They will also be able to, if it's their wife that currently is staying home to take care of their child, now the wife can actually possibly go to work. So now it's a dual income family, and now possibly they can afford to live in the Bay Area, where if they have their wife living at home or if they're staying home with the child, then it's a 1-income family. And again, the affordability to live in the Bay Area is a big concern.
I do echo that, and I don't want to harp on this too much, and I don't think that it's something that you alone can solve, right? The high cost of housing, unfortunately, the competitive salaries, but I can tell you from my own experience, and I'm not a deputy, I don't wear a uniform, but I work for this county, and I, as a female who am thick in this, recognize the value that women bring to the field of law enforcement. And frankly, it might be something that I would consider, but I also have young kids. When I first started in the county, they were young enough that they needed to go to preschool, one of them. I live in county, but I, as a single mom, I live in a one-bedroom apartment with 2 sets of bunk beds, and both of my children live in that room with me. It is really difficult to make a life in San Mateo County, especially being a public servant. And I'm not here for the sad story, but I think that there are many employees, especially people who have an interest in becoming law enforcement professionals, who probably would echo the same story. Childcare costs are roughly $3,500 a month for preschool these days. The county does offer a subsidized benefit on site, but when I first started with the county and did a little bit of digging, recognizing that the county would subsidize it up to an extent of 17% of my household income, it was still close to $2,500 a month, and that was more than one of my paychecks. So I think for the sheriff to take this initiative to say, we've got to support our employees in the best way possible. We have great benefits here. We've got job security here. We're able to do a job that we're passionate about, and we love the community that we serve, but there are unfortunately financial constraints to being a public servant, and I think those are kind of the top 2 right now that we're seeing in this profession and outside of the profession, frankly, is the high cost of housing and the ability to find a child care center that you can drop your kid off at 5 o'clock in the morning and then come back after 6 or 7 p.m. because that's what the law enforcement shifts demand.
And like Heather said earlier as well, I mean, we're competing against the Googles of the world. We're competing against the Facebooks of the world, where they have everything at their office, whether they get meals, whether they get childcare, whether they get, they get dry cleaning, they get carpooling. You see these buses going up and down the peninsula with people that are getting commuted from San Francisco to Mountain View to Google. The salaries too, once you do work here, and we're competing against the Googles of the world and the Facebooks of the world, not just our local agencies like Redwood City. I think Redwood City makes close to 15 to 20% more than us in regards to that. So that's another retention issue that we have, because there are other agencies that offer different types of benefits. You got San Bruno, who offers lifetime medical. We don't offer that. So we do see some deputies go to those type of agencies. So those are some of our retention issues that we have, but I think the top 2 are the cost of living here, and then the ability, to provide some type of child care, because that alleviates at least some of the financial burden on some of our deputies.
I feel your pain. I have a son that's in law enforcement that has a child, and I also have a daughter that's with Netflix, so she's got kind of the other spectrum relative to that. But you mentioned these other benefits from these other agencies. Do you think the sheriff's office is competitive with these surrounding agencies that offer lifetime medical or the 15 or 20% more salary? Do you think that you're turning into maybe a training ground for these other agencies to leave you put all this time and money and training and everything into them? They get their post-certification after 18 months or something, is it 18?
Correct.
Yeah, you get that, and then they go to another agency where they're having the same issues relative to recruitment and retention probably too. Because myself being a fire director, we have it with the fire side. We've got people in Sacramento, Modesto, a lot of people in the Sacramento area that live there, but they're a little bit different relative to what their work schedules are and stuff. But do you think the salary base or the added benefits would help to not only retain but to recruit?
Without a doubt, and for those of you who are interested in looking it up, our MOUs, and this is across the board, not just for the sworn union benefits, but our comparable cities, quote unquote. I think there's 7 of them, and I'm going to try to give you the accurate ones, but it's our surrounding counties, Oakland, and San Jose. So it's Alameda, Santa Clara, San Francisco. I want to say Solano's thrown in there, some other random one. Maybe it's Contra Costa, but it's our surrounding counties, Oakland and San Jose. We're not losing any deputies to City of San Jose or City of Oakland. We're losing deputies to Redwood City, City of San Mateo, Folsom, where. So we, the sheriff's office and the sheriff herself, unfortunately, our hands are tied. Our MOUs say the competitive cities that we're comparing your salaries against, where we're benchmarking, are these 7 comparables. But unfortunately, they're not realistically aligned to where our competitors are. It's the City of San Mateo, it's the City of San Bruno, it's the City of Redwood City, who, again, pay 10 to 15% more and have a little bit umped up benefits.
Are there any other questions? Mike?
I'll yield to my colleagues, but I definitely want to get back to some of this. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Mine's a softball as well, but just a question about staffing. When you have correctional officers that convert to deputy, does that create a vacancy, or does that transfer and then that deputy kind of functions as both? How does that work?
Well, all of our deputies start in the jail, actually, while they're waiting for the academy to begin. So if it's a correctional officer who's promoted, that individual essentially continues to work in the jail until their assigned academy begins. Yep.
So that's one of the things where we do have an advantage, and we have been able to recruit some people from other agencies, is that when somebody gets hired with us, we don't hire on an academy schedule. So let's say an academy starts in April, this is for sakes, and we hire that person, we're done with their background, everything's done in January. We will hire that person in January, unlike some of these other agencies will wait till April, then their first day of work is in the academy. So we can hire them in January, we have them start the jail training program and be a body within our jails. They can work in the jail to up to a year for post standards prior to going to a police academy. So those are some of the initiatives and some of the things that the sheriff has given us the ability to do to help and, make that gap a little bit smaller in regards to that.
So, I mean, are there 2 tracks? How can somebody stay a correctional officer and not become a deputy? Or, okay, and so if they're a correctional officer and they transition to a deputy, then that's a vacancy in the jails, right? Yeah, got it. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. There was a graph that you had up that showed in 2024 like a really big. I don't understand the numbers. So on the left-hand side where we have that number at 100, what does that number represent? The number of vacancies?
Number of vacancies. I'm sorry, I didn't label this very well. I apologize. So the numbers on the left are vacancies within our office. Dates at the bottom are kind of benchmarking. The key dates that I wanted to highlight to you are January of 2023, when the sheriff was elected. We were at 90 vacancies.
Do you have more information that goes back?
Of course.
So that I could see how maybe gradual or how steep.
Definitely.
That
We don't have a slide for that today, but we could definitely
no,
get back to you
totally
on
fine,
that.
but that would be very
No
interesting
problem.
because when we talk about
Oh, yeah.
reasons why people are no longer interested, and I saw one of them was something that happened in 2020, George Floyd. I want to see
Right.
how that may have impacted.
Oh, yeah, the graph will show.
And then the other
absolutely.
thing, as far as when people exit, what type of information do you gather, and how does that help you with this? Because, one thing that I have a little understanding of is that some of our officers don't want to live in their communities that they're working at. So I want to know how that plays, because we know the cost of living is very expensive, and I'm in nonprofit, so you don't have to tell me all of that, right? But when you are online with something that you are born to do, or you've been called to do, you find a way to make those things happen. And whether it's a stepping stone to go to a different agency where we understand progression, right? But just want to get a little understanding. It's really easy to say it costs a lot of money to live here. Well, you can live in the East Bay or maybe the South Bay where it's a little less expensive. So I'm trying to figure out if there's some internal things as well that's going on in the office that should be looked at and considered?
So yeah, so we do exit interviews and we try to find out the reasoning. I think probably, I can't give you an exact number, but I know probably at least the people that I've talked to, 70% of them are leaving because of time away from home. You know, they have younger children. They want to be able to, you know, see their kids on Saturdays and watch them play ball or whatever it could be, or they're having marital issues. As law enforcement people, we already have them already because we're working shift work. And we're away on holidays and certain stuff. But being even away further where you're gone, like myself, I'm gone away from my wife for 4 days out of the week. So that in itself is a stress, right? And I had, luckily now both of my children are in college, but when I moved in 2015, they were still in high school and in junior high school. And there was issues where, you know, came up and my wife had to take care of them where it should have been something we did together. So those are the major issues that I think people are leaving. Do we have internal issues? I think there's no agency in the world that doesn't have any issues. But are those issues driving people away? Absolutely not. Like I said, I've been here for 4 sheriffs. This is my 4th sheriff. And the sheriff that we currently have now has done more for us in the 18 months that she's been in office than the 3 sheriffs combined in regards to officer wellness, the culture here, the ability to help and hire different people. We've done initiatives like if we do hire people from the Sacramento area, we're able to send them to an academy at the Sacramento Sheriff's Office. So during the academy, they're not away from home. They can go home and sleep in their own bed, be with their loved ones, and actually make it a little bit less stressful. No other sheriff has done that before. So those are the type of initiatives that she's doing. That's again, it's officer wellness. It's a lot of things that she's incorporating to make sure that you know, people can do the job and do it well here in San Mateo County.
And I don't want to hog the time, but what you're talking about is not unique to any other employer or service provider outside of law enforcement. So another part is do you collaborate with other agencies to find creative ways, right? Like having healthcare and all of that, childcare, great stuff. But when we talk about having a child in daycare from 5 a.m. to 7 p.m., that's not the most ideal situation for that child. So is there a way to look at scheduling and things of that nature to make it more conducive and more inviting to people? So looking at creative ways to do that, right? Because I don't want to be away from my 2 or 3 year old that long a period of time. I want to be bonding with them, right? Same thing with wife or partner, whoever it may be. So wondering if there's some thoughts about those things. Because again, in a little HR, money is not the only driving factor of why people stay or leave. It is the culture and all the other things that happen as well. So to have a combination of all of those things will be something to think of.
No, for sure. I agree with you with that as well. But like you said, cops don't want to live in the same city where they work in. We are a county agency, right? So I could work in South County, North Fair Oaks, but live in Belmont, which I did, you know, most of my life, and there's no connection. So, and the great thing for me on those issues was that I still could drive to my house for a few minutes, say goodnight to my children, or have dinner with my wife, and then go back to work. So those are the things that, if you do live in the county, it affords you those things, even though you're still working on those weekends or doing those different things.
Totally get it, totally get it.
And just for context, we typically see roughly 25 retirements every year. So the vacancy we always kind of ballpark that's how many we're going to lose, no matter what we do, no matter what, because that's just the timing of the retirement. So just for context on that.
Shirley?
Hi, thank you. I have a question about your shifts and just how long are the shifts? Because that's kind of the quality of life. Could you tell me a little bit about how the shifts, and I'm also questioning about the overtime, how much overtime there is?
Yeah, absolutely. So our traditional shifts for patrol, we've got 4 different teams. So we have 2 day shift and 2 night shift. Day shift is 6 a.m. until 6 p.m. Night shift is 6 p.m. until 6 a.m. Now, within each team, there's a little bit of overlap. So somebody will get there at 5:40 and then leave at 5:40. So not everybody's showing up at the same time, and you know, there's no pass off. But we also have transportation and court security. That's a Monday through Friday gig, kind of your traditional 8 to 5, which is fantastic for those who are looking for a more traditional kind of lifestyle. So it really depends on your assignment. If you're working in our Sheriff's Activities League, you're definitely working a Monday through Friday, except if we have events on the weekends. But our traditional shifts are 6 a.m. till 6 p.m. So day shift is you're working 2 days on and then
okay.
2 days off. Night shift, and it's a variation, and I try to remember it, but it's this song and dance that goes something like 5 days on, 4 days off, 4 days on.
Pretty much. It's, for our
Okay.
night shift, it's basically 4 on, 4 off.
Okay,
And every other month, you get the weekends off, the
okay.
way that shift works.
And how much overtime do you, I mean, what is your budget? And of your budget, how much is spent on overtime? Do you know that? Or if you could
It's a
get
great
it back to us?
question, and the finance director unfortunately is not sitting in the audience, but, you know, the overtime that we have spent this year is probably the largest dollar amount of overtime we've ever seen, and that's not because, you know, COLA and cost of living expenses have gone up, it's because we've had 100 vacancies that need to be filled. So it's probably at an unprecedented rate, I can tell you that much. I don't have those exact numbers for you, but if that's something you're interested in, we probably can take another deep dive into our finance.
Yeah, I would appreciate that.
And one more thing on the shifts, the sheriff has made some shifts that are kind of like swing shifts, so like a 3 to 3 shift or a 5 to 5 shift, depending on some of those two. For some of the commuters that do have to commute further, they're not commuting during the commuting time, and they actually can be home when their children wake up in the morning, say good morning, take them to school, and then come to work. So there's also a noon to midnight shift. So she has worked with us to accommodate us with some of those shifts, but there's only so many that they can do with those. So, but she has done some shifts like that for us.
Can I just ask you, is a 12-hour shift common?
Oh, in our industry, definitely, yeah. Most agencies are 12-hour shifts.
Okay.
Rebecca?
You mentioned about the retirements. And I'm wondering, because I'm remembering a conversation with one of the officers that was saying there's really not an incentive to stay longer because you're not going to make any more money or something. They hit like a plateau. So the 25 retirements that you're facing every year, could that be changed in some way?
Yeah, we've explored something that I think some faraway agencies have put into practice. It's called a drop program, and it's essentially a retention mechanism where employees who are eligible for retirement would commit to an additional 5 years if a certain percentage of their salary was continued. I don't know enough about it to give you real details on it, but DROP is the acronym, and it's a tool that other agencies have toyed with, considered. There's a business case reason for it, absolutely. There's a lot of institutional knowledge. Unfortunately, that's goes away every year with those retirements. To my understanding, and this was far before my time, but to my understanding with HEPA changes and such, our agency used to be a 3 at 50 agency, and you say 3 at 50 to any cop, I guarantee their eyes will light up. What agency is still doing that? Those benefits were essentially stripped, and I'm going to use that word stripped because certain agencies elected to continue with 3 at 50. You get 3% of your salary building up, and you get to retire at 50. We're now 2.7 at 57. So what that means is you're getting a little bit less money and you're working a little bit longer. And sure, that's everyone, right? That's the entire United States, unfortunately, with Social Security and such. But at what point do we get to compete with other agencies who continued on that effort of 3 at 50 in retirement? So I don't know if that necessarily answered your question, but yes, we have considered, researched, explored ideas to kind of keep hold of our retirees for just a little bit longer, but really we all as employees are here for a reason, and that's to get paid. And if the bottom line isn't mathing, then they're probably not going to stick around, unfortunately.
And that drop program was proposed, but it was denied.
Marco?
Just to put a dollar amount in the comparisons about other cities and competing with different departments, what's the standard salary for a first-year sheriff deputy with a college degree and without a college degree?
So in county government, there are steps: step A, step B, step C. We've got 5 steps. As a deputy sheriff trainee, it doesn't matter whether you have a degree or not. There's no mechanism for us to pay you more because it's a county set wage. So right now, a deputy sheriff trainee is making about $120 a year as step A as a trainee. Correctional officer is 15% below that. I'm not going to do the math, but it's exactly 15% below.
How long does it take for them to go through those steps that you're talking
When
about?
they start at step A, there's a county policy that says they naturally progress without any kind of a performance evaluation at 6 months. So by 6 months, they're making step B. From there, again, it's not tied to performance. Every year on their anniversary of that initial 6 months, they'll progress to the next step. So it'll take a deputy 5 years in essence, 4.5 if you're really counting, to get to the top step of pay.
And what's the dollar amount for the top step in the pay 4.5 years in?
I want to say 135. It's on our website, and I'm sorry, I don't know that off the top of my head. But I believe it's 135. Mm-hmm.
And the way the college degree does help is there's what we call a basic post-certificate, which you get after 18 months once you're done with an FTO program and a probationary period. So you get a basic post-certificate with that. Then if you have a college degree or bachelor's degree, there's an intermediate post-certificate that you get, and we also get a 2% raise for that. But that is, if you have a bachelor's degree, it's within 4 years. If you don't, it's 7 years. And then there's an advanced certificate that if you have a bachelor's degree, I believe you get that in 7 years, and if you don't, it's 12 years.
One follow-up question on the child care. So that's opening in 2025?
That is pending invitation back onto the Board of Supervisors agenda. It was removed from the agenda, and we're awaiting to hear when we can take it to the Board of Supervisors for approval.
So it hasn't been approved yet?
Correct.
It's proposed. And how many slots would there be?
60.
So how would the decisions be made as to who gets in and who doesn't? Because I imagine there are more than 60 kids that in the department that would qualify.
It's a great question. So when we first started down the path of this child care center, we did an initial survey just to take the temperature and see how many people were interested. In our initial survey, we had 77 people raise their hand and say, I absolutely want to send my child here. So that tells you already kind of what that looks like. That's with professional and sworn staff. And for us, the way that we looked at it is let's prioritize our sworn staff members who are the first responders of this community and take it by seniority. So you'd worked here longer, Mike would get a slot before I would. He's also a sworn staff member. I'm a professional staff member. First slots would go to sworn staff members based on seniority. And then if slots were available, professional staff could also send their children, again, based on seniority and based on availability. The child care center is subject to all state mandated licensing. So each classroom is a certain age and there's different child to teacher ratios that need to be met. So obviously dependent upon availability. What we, talked to this child care provider who we did an RFP for and signed a contract with was, what if somebody who works the 2 on 2 off schedule only wants to send their kids 2 days a week? Are you willing to work with that? And they're like, absolutely, because then it means somebody else who only wants to send their child there 3 days a week can send it. So it's 60 children in that building all at one time, but realistically we could serve a lot more children than that because some people only want to send their children half of the week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday kind of a gig.
Yes.
Bethany, do you mind going up to the podium and speaking into the mic, please? Thank you.
Why don't you come over this side and hit the button?
I was wondering if you offer an internship for high school students. I ask because some students at my school are involved in this, I think, junior firefighter program. And a lot of students just from that program have realized, oh, what I want to do with my life is I want to be a firefighter. So I think if there is something with the sheriff's department, there could be a lot of interest that way.
Definitely. So one of the slides we talked about, we hired 30 summer interns this past year. Previously, it had kind of been around the 2015 mark. Absolutely. As long as they're old enough to work, we're willing to hire them. It doesn't necessarily have to be somebody who's in college. I think our cutoff was like 23 this year. We really wanted to extend our reach and say, if you've got talent and interest, we are more than willing to interview you and see if you're going to be a good fit for us. So yes, absolutely. And I would say if you're not signed up on calops.org for notifications when those job opportunities become available, please sign up for notifications for summer intern. It's typically February of each year that we recruit for our summer interns, only because we do have to put each individual through a background investigation. That takes a little bit of time. So in order to gear up for a June hiring date, we start recruiting in February. So please sign up for notifications if you're interested, or anyone you know is interested.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Further on that as well, we also have a Explorer program. So it's for teenagers from 14 to 21. So they're able to volunteer their time, come out. It's kind of like probably like the firefighter program that you're talking about, where they actually go out on calls, able to help us with special events. They get a uniform. They go through an academy. So they get the real life experience of what it's like to actually work with us. So we have that. Then we also have our SAL program. So that's the Sheriff's Activities League. So they can actually be part of that as well and kind of learn and get to know deputies one-on-one in, outside of the uniform, as coaches, as mentors, as, tutors. So we have all those different programs that we're currently outreaching with the young folks as well.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for answering my question.
Any other questions from the commissioner, or should we ask?
I'd like to go again.
Go ahead, Rob.
I have a couple more slides, too.
Oh, you do have more slides?
I have a couple more slides.
Oh.
Yeah, I just did a pause. That was the pause.
Well,
that was the.
that was a long
the break.
pause. Sorry.
I swear, it's just a few more. So, to really emphasize the progress that we have made under Sheriff Corpus's leadership, we have successfully hired over 160 sworn and professional staff members since she took office. Of those, 103 are sworn staff members, and this figure actually only accounts for those who are still with us, not those who may have started but didn't make it through an academy. So 103 sworn staff members in 2 years, which is wild. Hiring and retaining 103 sworn staff members in just 2 years is an accomplishment that our office has never achieved before. This milestone speaks to the effectiveness of our recruitment efforts and the dedication of our team. Go ahead to the next slide if you don't mind. Thank you. As we wrap up, I do want to leave you with a look at what's in the works. Our immediate goal is to open this child care center we've been planning, which will be a game changer for our staff. Next, we are focused on tackling the high cost of housing and the cost of living in our county. We're exploring all kinds of strategic programs and partnerships to help our employees put down roots here in San Mateo County, which will ultimately strengthen our workforce and help us to retain top talent. Finally, we're planning to continue to prioritize our employees' well-being, ensuring that they have the support, the resources, and the work-life balance needed to thrive, both professionally and personally. And I do want to thank you for your time today, and we're happy to take any additional questions that you might have. I know people might have more questions about the details of the Child Care Center, and I've had the privilege of working on it for the past year and a half, and really excited to open this Child Care Center for our staff. So if anyone has any questions, happy to take those now.
I think we asked most of them, except Rob might have one or two more.
I'm still going to be easy questions.
I like the hard ones too. We're ready.
No, I don't want to do that. Well, depends who's pitching, right? There you go. Yeah, when you talked about, I'm going back to recruitment and retention, training. I know there's an 18-month period. I've got a law enforcement background myself, 100 years ago, but it's pretty much the same. And the aspect of how many do you have in background now?
I want to say that number is around 175 right now, various
Wow.
stages of backgrounds.
And then you talked about contract investigators that are working.
Yes.
Okay, what types of standards do they have relative to working as a contractor for the county? Are they provided a contractual agreement? Do they have like liability insurance relative
They
to
do.
that?
It's a county
or-
requirement, yes.
Yeah.
They have a PI license. Each one is required to have a PI license. Each one must be post-background certified. It's a 40-hour class to get your certification. Each of them responded to our request for proposals and pitched the dollar amount that they wanted to be paid. We negotiated with all of them and said, let's meet in the middle, and we're going to pay you all exactly the same. They are required to have liability insurance as well. I think it's $1 million for what it's worth. Yep.
Got a few more. Is that all right, Bill? Does anybody else want to go?
Rebecca would love to
ahead.
ask.
Go ahead, please. I'm on a roll.
So I have a question about how decisions are made in the agency. And you've mentioned really all the progress through Sheriff Corpus, but since I've been on this commission, a couple of things have come up over and over again. So one of them being receiving mail, actually receiving mail. So how does a decision like that get made? How does the staff say, these are the considerations, this is how we could do it? This is one part, and then the other one has to do with those iPads.
And we're
the-
talking
and the
about
need
within
for
our
more
correctional
iPads.
facilities.
What's
Within,
that?
within the correctional facilities.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with this sheriff, I've been here for 2, but especially with this sheriff, chain of command is real. If a correctional officer comes to their direct supervisor and says, Sergeant so-and-so, it's my understanding that these individuals would have a much better quality of life if they had access to their paper mail that they could open and, I don't know, smell the perfume of somebody, I don't know. That consideration is quite often kicked up the chain of command. Those proposals, that kind of feedback is not only welcome but encouraged at the sheriff's office. So it doesn't matter who the idea came from. If it's a valid idea, if it's got, sound reasoning behind it, it's something that's being considered at the top, at our executive level. There might be research that needs to be done. I mean, not on the mail subject, but there's tasks that are assigned down the chain of command to say, let's look into this. Somebody brought a good idea and we want to find out more. Let's look into it. Let's dive deep. Heather and Mike, why don't you guys work on it together? The ultimate decision is probably made by a member of our executive team, but I would say we have a very open door policy where we're interested in hearing more.
I can definitely speak on the recruiting side of it. If there's an idea or if there's something that comes up that needs to be changed or new ideas that we hear from other agencies that are, there's definitely collaboration. The idea comes, I talk to my lieutenant, which goes up the chain, the sheriff, the executive team then will ask me questions. We do kind of a roundtable and figure out what we believe is the best solution or the best practices that are happening within our profession.
Thanks. So is there like a committee that looks over all the priorities, proposals, new projects, and says this is, kind of prioritizing them and then saying this is what we would be looking at?
It sounds like the sheriff is maybe logged in and ready to answer some of these questions. Okay, we're going to work on that, Sheriff Corpus. Hang on.
Okay, all right, good evening. Good evening, everyone, and if the sheriff, if we can get her on, I'll let her take over. I'm Dan Prey, I'm the undersheriff for San Mateo County Sheriff's Office. I just wanted to speak to the question of mail. What it comes down to in the end is safety. Drugs being smuggled into correctional facilities is a challenge that's been faced in our profession in corrections for a long time. And the sophistication that people have in order to accomplish that. I mean, paper is a medium that can be used to to hold, you know, a liquefied narcotic and then bring that into a correctional facility via mail. So we don't have the staff or the equipment to analyze every piece of paper safely that comes in that would be sent in that manner. I can tell you that all of the mail is held, and when people are released from custody, all of that original hard copy mail is provided to them. Again, it comes down to safety, and I know that this topic, ma'am, as you mentioned, has been raised several times, and if a larger discussion, you know, if this body would like a larger discussion or presentation about that, I'm sure that would probably be more helpful than me kind of glossing over it, you know, in the manner that I'm doing right now. But there is a lot of access with tablets to things, you know, to books and other medium through the use of the tablets that folks that are in our custody currently have access to.
And I just want to chime in. I think Undersheriff's correct that if we want to have an in-depth conversation on the mail issue, we should probably agendize that specifically so members of the public know that's going to be discussed in advance. Certainly we can touch on it as it's related to the professional standards and the chain of custody and that, but.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I was just asking, how are these decisions made? How, you know, this keeps coming up, and so where does it go when this comes up?
Adam, if I can speak. Is it okay?
Yes, I'll allow it, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Adam.
Yes.
I'll get you coffee.
Yeah.
What I will tell you is that I worked in the jail, and the type of sophistication and drugs that were now riddled with in our correctional facilities was not what I had to deal with. I remember opening the mail with just gloves on and then, you know, being able to pass the mail on to the incarcerated person. But our world has changed. The drugs, unfortunately, are more potent and are more deadly. And the concern that I have are the deaths that could possibly happen with the drugs that are now, and it's not just our sheriff's office, it's sheriff's office. There's 58 of us in the state of California, and we're all dealing with this issue. And the decision was made prior to me becoming sheriff to use a different mailing system, which basically happens when there are problems in the jail with the drugs that are coming in, and we had some exposures. And as I said, in the prior administration, it was decided that there was going to be a service that was going to be used. And so now the mail is scanned, and you don't get to touch or smell the mail that comes in. But the other issue now is the safety not only of our incarcerated population, but also of our employees. And in order for us to go back to a system where we can receive all of the hand-delivered mail or the mail that comes in through our postal service, we would have to have a very sophisticated mail room where it would require us to have some technology that would be able to help us detect any type of substance that would be coming in through the mail. And that would actually, you know, cost us, well, the county, we would have to have some funds set aside for that. And I understand, believe me, I have a big heart, and I understand how, you know, receiving a letter and smelling it with perfume on it, or being able to see it and touch it, how important that is. but I also am concerned about just the drugs and the sophistication level. And we do not only have county inmates in our or incarcerated persons in our jail, we now are keeping individuals that should be going to prison in our custody. And so there's a different sophistication level that comes with that. And the concerns are the safety of everyone. And so I just want you to know that every day I'm thinking about and researching different ways that we could do this, but without, being able to have a mail room that would have the technology and at least the being able to detect everything. I think that we would be possibly having more deaths in custody because of the fact of the drugs that would be coming in, because there is a different sophistication level.
Thank you. I think we've probably hit the time to kind of move on to the public comment. If there is any public comment on this item, do we have any cards? Okay, can you keep them brief? Please.
We get these emails to read over. Are they considered part of the agenda? We get the correspondence from individuals that email us about items. Is that part of the agenda?
You mean to you as an individual, or to the
No,
email
it's to
address?
all of us. We get two. This time we've got two emails that came to us, and
You're asking if they're on the agenda?
if it's considered an agenda item,
No, they're not on the agenda.
what do we need to do to put them on the agenda?
I haven't seen them. I'd be happy to take a look at them, but you would have to agendize them for next time.
So if they're on a specific topic, we can't discuss something that hasn't
Right.
been agendized.
Well, that's why I'm asking the question.
So when did you get the emails? Was it in enough time to have agendized it for today, or it's something that's coming in now?
Yeah,
Okay.
we got them as written correspondence
Okay, so then
to our agenda tonight, attached to our agenda.
I see. So the person could make public comment. that person who sent the email could make public comment, or if you wanted to discuss it, you could agendize it for the next meeting.
So then we'll hold that to the end, where we talk about, what is that item, where it says commissioner and liaison announcements, where if we want to put these things on the agenda, is that the place to put them on?
You cannot add them to tonight's agenda.
But
I
you
understand
can
that.
put
That's
them
why
on
I'm
for the
asking the
next-
question.
But you can discuss adding them to next meeting's agenda for the 20th.
Because we've been getting these ever since August. And I'm trying to figure out in a way, I know that, within our fire district, we have a procedure where if it's attached to our agenda, it goes into an area where it's a proposed agenda item, and it either goes on that or it's just a reference for us to read them. So I'm trying to, that's why I'm posing the question.
Yeah, I think you're right that you can bring them up as possible future agenda items when we go around and do board member comments. And then you also have the opportunity, post-meeting, you could reach out individually to the chair or vice chair who ultimately set the agenda for each meeting, just to say, hey, I'm reading this over. Maybe we should consider adding this to the future agenda.
Okay, I would probably think it would be probably in that section 6 then, where I'm going to address
Perfect.
the two emails. Okay.
Sounds right. Okay.
Thank you for the advice.
Certainly. I think that's it. Thank you very much for your presentation and all of your answers to your questions. Yes.
Commissioner, I just wanted to add one thing real quick to the
Sure.
discussion about the child care, and then I'll get up and walk away.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Like Director Enders, or as Heather had mentioned, the work for the child care center has been going on. but it is paused right now. We're waiting for that to be put back on the agenda from the Board of Supervisors to get the support we need to continue with that. So I just wanted to add that last little piece. Thank you.
Thank you, Undersheriff. And Mr. Solano, back to your question, which was, what can we do for you? I think that's probably the biggest pitch that we can make to you tonight is we've put a lot of work and effort and thought into this child care center for our staff. And for reasons really, I feel like unknown, it's been pulled from the Board of Supervisors agenda for consideration. And we'd really love to be able to present that to the board and make our pitch to them as to why we think that a Sheriff's Office Child Care Center is the right move for both retention and recruitment efforts.
So then when I've asked you for the 3 items, the wish list, the softballs.
Do you want to review what you wrote down? Make sure we got it right?
Of course, we can't really deal with the distance aspect, but you do have housing where deputies or non-sworn or sworn can stay, the child care issue, and the different benefits and the salaries differences between, well, not only the private sector, but the different agencies that are within this county where that you compete for personnel. So those are the 3 top.
I'm just going to grab control back. So Sheriff Corpus has her hand up, and I think she wanted to address some questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. What I want to say is that I go back to my days of having 2 children and trying to balance a law enforcement career and having shift work. And it was a struggle for me. Luckily, I had very supportive family, my mother, my sister, who helped me. Right now, the county has an agreement with a child care center, Bright Horizons, that is on the campus, but there is a 4-year waiting period. And I'm talking about my experience, so I want to say, I'm going to date myself, but almost 14 years ago, for 2 kids, it was, for 1 full-time and 1 part-time, it was almost $4,000. And luckily, I was in a position where I was working an 8 to 5 position. But otherwise, I would not be able to have that as a amenity to myself because it wasn't open. It doesn't open for shift work. And what I can tell you is that with this child care center, I understand that there's concerns about, a child being in the center for that, long period of time. But where it's located, and it's located in an area that would be in close proximity to a lot of our patrol bureaus, to both of our correctional facilities, and we would have nursing centers where if I was a mother, a new mom, I would be able to go on my break and nurse my child, which continues to have that bond and that I would have with my children. And what I will tell you, the commission, is that this has made national news where people are like thinking this is so innovative. And I've had San Francisco PD, I've had San Francisco Sheriff's Office. They want to know how we're doing this. And so if this is the first step for us to try and help our, it costs a lot of money when we invest in someone from the beginning of interviewing them to putting them through training to getting them, through the FTO program, and then them leaving 2 years later. It's a lot of money and investment in the county. And this would allow us to be an agency in a county that we are the pioneers of this. The only ones that are doing this are in, Southern California, and it's one agency. It's San Diego Police Department, but they haven't even gotten their center up and running yet. And so we would be the first. And I would think that that would be a badge of honor. And so what I would ask is that this be considered. It's within our own budget. We're not asking for more county funds. We're not asking for more taxpayer funds. We've already identified that if we're able to keep people and retain people and not allow, not having them leave our agency, then that would itself pay for itself with our child care center. And so I'm just asking for the consideration, and I'm asking for the advocacy in this, because this is something that we need, and that's something that I go back to as a young mom, that I would have just wrapped my arms around and have just, appreciated. And I just think about all the young families that can't afford to live here, but if they were able to bring their children to work and then be able to bond with them and read a book to them at their lunchtime, that in itself is just a price. I just don't think we get a price, put a price tag on.
Thank you very much, Sheriff Corpus. James?
If I could, and I appreciate it, but my understanding also is that there's some legality to some of these things that happen too, right? So we're not talking about things that are innovative or thought outside of the box, right? Lactation room for nursing mothers and things like that. These are things that are required. So these are things that employers are expecting from their employer to provide, right? So these are some things that we have to do. I just wanted to state that, like, these aren't just luxuries, right? And having conversations with some personnel with lunch breaks, not being able to take a lunch break and having to eat with people on a pod and things like that has to be worked out. And that's kind of what I'm talking about when we talk about, on these exit things. It's not just the dollars and cents. It's all of these things combined. What is the quality of the environment that I'm working in to be able to do this job and earn those dollars and move up, right? So I just wanted to say that these aren't luxury items that we're talking about.
I think to Sheriff Corpus's point, there's a difference between the state required and federal required lactation, or nursing rooms, lactation rooms, wellness rooms. We have those in the county.
And hopefully folks have access to those when they're working 12 hours or whatever shifts.
I think the difference is having our own sheriff's office preschool.
Yeah.
Preschools don't let their parents come in midday and interrupt their kids' day, as a general rule of thumb. And I think what the sheriff is trying to, her point she's trying to make here is that she would create an environment, because it's a sheriff's office preschool. Any deputy, any personnel member is welcome to come in and enjoy time with their child when they have a brief moment of reprieve in their day, whether that's a lactating mom or
just wanted to
otherwise.
balance, because folks don't get the full picture of it. The question, one of the last slides was talking about mental and physical well-being. And I wanted to ask a question because we talked about critical incidents and having therapists available to staff. Sometimes it's hard to ask for that help. Are there policies in place, and knowing in law enforcement, being strong and being behind the badge and shield and star and all of that type of stuff, not showing any weakness? Are there things in place where if there's multiple critical incidents, someone is strongly encouraged to see someone? And again, these things can happen rapid in the course of a night. And we're talking about these spikes of adrenaline and all of these it could be very detrimental. So I'm wondering if there's the eye in the sky.
I'm so glad you asked this question. So one of the amazing things about that expanded peer support team that I talked about briefly, I didn't really get to dive deeply into it, but each of those 22 members of our peer support team, they're all ranks, they're sworn staff, and they're professional staff. And each of those are required as part of being on this peer support team to go to training that helps them identify those markers. Alcoholism, domestic maybe abuse or whatever it is, problems at home, financial concerns. They are trained to identify that in their colleagues. So that to us is the first line of defense. The second line of defense, like you said, in a critical incident, our licensed family therapist, who is that first line of defense, she proactively reaches out. So anytime a critical incident goes down, a member of our team, typically an executive team member or a captain, would reach out to her and just shoot her a text and say, hey, this happened. It was B shift, team 2 on the coast, and it happened, and there was 8 members of the team. She proactively reaches out, and I've actually utilized her services a couple times to have her check in on some staff that I was concerned about after incidents had happened. And she has a strategy. She'll reach out and say, hey, it's Courtney, I'm here. If you need anything, just let me know, blah, blah. Let me know if you want a phone call. But she also follows up, and she is relentless and making sure that she just has a conversation with these employees. It doesn't cost the employee anything. There's no supervisor. She doesn't call up the supervisor and say, oh, well, yeah, he's drinking alcohol, and, you know, there's nothing like that that's going on. She is that support net until they decide on their own to go reach out to their, you know, insurance provided therapist. So we've got a couple of lines of defense, and I would say our peer support system is, our peer support team is probably the one that has worked the most for us in the past.
Rebecca had a
Did the
question. Rebecca had a question. Rob?
I'm sorry. I didn't. I thought you would go ahead.
So Heather, you've given so much information here. This is really good. And I'm thinking about these 150 new employees, 103 officers and staff, and that one of the things you said that you do in human resources is internal investigations, which that's also come up quite a bit from when people have public comment. And so I want to just bring it up because I know we can't go into that because we're late into the night now. But I'm just thinking that that's a conversation, I think, especially now, because you're going to have 150 new employees. That there's internal investigations can be really important guardrails of what happens in an agency. So I just want to bring that up as a conversation that we need to have.
I just want to get a verification. Did the sheriff say that there is a daycare facility?
Yes.
And it has a 4-year waiting list?
It has a 4-year wait list.
And it's
yeah.
only in 9 to 5 or whatever? So
based
it's
on
mostly set up for civilian employees then?
7:30 a.m. till 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. It is
Okay.
on site. There is a 4-year wait list.
Okay, thank you.
Full price, $3,500 a month, to my understanding. That's the full price. It's subsidized by the county. So depending on your household income, you would pay 17% of your household income. And again, when I started 3 years ago, that was about $2,500 a month as a single mom, and that was more than one of my paychecks. So just for reference.
So it's now time for public comment. Do we have any public comment cards, either in person or online?
Members of the public, if you wish to comment on agenda item 4, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom or bring a speaker slip up to the clerk during this time. I'd like to call Nancy Goodman up to the podium. You'd have 2 minutes to speak.
Hi, thank you. I'm Nancy Goodman. I think this is on. Yeah, it is. Okay. And I just want to comment on the jail mail. This is something that calls out for data. I would be curious, a couple of things. Number one, why does Santa Clara County have a mail room and they don't use machines and they have civilian staff opening the mail with gloves and that works? Why does San Francisco and LA also open the mail? And the second question is, I think you could find people from those counties to answer it. The second question is, rather than just saying we can't open the mail because of fentanyl, how much mail do people get every month? How much mail comes through to the Florida scanning group? And how many times has contraband been found there? And I think it'd just be helpful if the county had more information. I know I'm aware there's a lawsuit about it, and just as an outsider, it sure feels like low-hanging fruit to let the people have their civil rights, their human rights, give them the darn mail back like some of the other counties do, without making excuses for it. It seems like that's something we could move forward, and I love that the sheriff said they're looking at ways to do it and would like to have a mail room. And one thing maybe this commission could do is encourage the county executive to fund a mail room.
Thank you. Trina Patton, please come up to the podium.
Hi, I'm Trina Patton from Belmont. I want to talk about this presentation. I'm highly annoyed by what transpired here. And this was supposed to be a presentation about the professional Standards Bureau, Staffing Recruitment, and Employee Wellness. We got a lot of information, which is great. Kudos for what they're trying to do to keep their staff well and retained. But what was mentioned is nothing new to the county. I too am a public servant with San Mateo County. Every single thing they talked about in terms of high cost of living, difficulty retaining employees, having to compete with the Googles and the Facebook is true throughout the county. So they are not in any unique position in terms of trying to get staff. Regarding this child care issue, I think it's highly inappropriate to have Christina Corpus making comment on video. I think it's inappropriate to have the undersheriff talking about mail when it's something that wasn't on the agenda for them to talk about. And I wish we could just stick to what we're supposed to be doing. Here we are now. I've attended every meeting that y'all have had. And it never seems to be able to run on time. And I think it's important from the public that we're able to do that. These issues are important. Put them on the agenda and let's talk about them. And I really despise this presentation and the sheriff using this body to attempt to get their needs met. This body is not for the sheriff. It's supposed to be for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Last call for public comments. There are no more public comments.
Online? Okay. So with that, we'll move on to the next agenda item 5, which is a discussion of the retreat preparation. And everybody received prior to the meeting, and then there's a copy at the desk or at each of your places, a list of potential discussion items for the retreat, and consisting of, I think it's 4 pages. And the real question is we're not going to prioritize these tonight or anything, but are there, after reviewing this, are there items that are missing that you feel should be added to the list? Shirley had sent in a communication with some additional items requested on the list, and I think they've been added to the list? No.
Well, there's a couple of new things.
Oh, that's great.
And one is, how is the Sheriff's Department going to address Proposition 36? What are the consequences? What are the planning? I mean, so we need them to start thinking about that, and we should be thinking about it, because that's going to change the population in the jails. And then the other one that I didn't have on my list is that how can we encourage the increase the utilization of in-jail programs? They're not, 3,900 spots is nothing. And we need to, with the programs, review the recidivism rates, and are there any incentives to participating in the in-jail programs? That's the other 2.
Anybody else with any additional items that are not on the list? James?
Well, I kind of follow up with that on some of the jail programs after they go through the jail programs. What is the follow-up and how the sheriff can be held responsible after they're taken out of custody? So it's kind of a partial add to what you want, isn't it, also?
When we had an Achieve 180 program here in the San Mateo County jails, and what we realized, we had a follow-up. The Sheriff's Department actually looked at the recidivism rate. It was incredibly low. It was like 37%. And so programs can work, but you need to look, you can run the numbers and see which ones work. That's what I'm talking about.
Thank you.
James?
Just wanted to get clarity, because I did have some, and I see that there were some additions, and I'll look at those additions to make sure I'm not duplicating anything. Is that to be sent to whom?
sent it to Kalima and myself.
It's just you two.
And then staff will also see it when it comes to us because they get the same email through the ICAC system. And then they will be added to the list.
But don't include all of us.
Don't include all of you because if people reply, then it could be a Brown Act violation. So including the two of us, staff will see it and then we'll add them. Because again, we want to add, nothing is taken off the list, it's only added to the list, and then at the retreat, then we're going to have a discussion about, and people are going to pick priorities, and you know, we're going to go through a process of coming up with those things and then rank them and go through a whole process. And again, a lot of these have come from the public, the community, suggestions, and that's, we want to be it as inclusive as possible of the list for consideration. So, no other additions from the commission. Public comment.
Members of the public, if you wish to comment on agenda item 5, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom or bring a speaker slip up to the clerk during this time. We do have 2 speaker slips. Nancy Goodman, please come up to the podium.
Sorry, I'm back. So, thank you so much for this. I was just thinking a suggestion for the retreat. We are mindful of the turmoil in the sheriff's office. I've seen 45 newspaper articles about it. We believe that ICAC can play a positive role in its authority as advisory to the Board of Supervisors on matters pertaining to the sheriff's office. This is a chance to help the community, to help the sheriff, and to help the county. Because I will tell you, the sheriff doesn't look good, the county doesn't look good, and this is a place where you all could be a buffer for the Board of Supervisors. You could help them get it kind of off their back. Specifically, 3 requests. Number 1, if the board would ask you, or you could just decide at your retreat, that you want to review the findings from the upcoming report by Judge Ladoris Cordell about issues pertaining to the sheriff's office and make recommendations as a commission to the Board of Supervisors in your role as an advisory body. Number 2, request that the Board of Supervisors keep on Ladoris Cordell, Judge Cordell, or someone like that, if she's not available, to look over the implementation of any recommendations she makes, maybe 6 or 12 months. And number 3, look at the concerns that the deputies have brought up. There's been concerns about overtime. There's concerns about taking people off patrol on the streets and the bureaus to help with support. And just bring some of the deputies in and try to help problem solve some of these things. I think communication is a wonderful solvent, and that could really help. And it would also help the deputies know that the commission is supporting them and supporting their own concerns about doing the work. So hopefully ICAC can be a good helper here and take the opportunity to really help the sheriff's office in the community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Trina Patton, please come up to the podium.
Thank you all. I'm a little less perturbed this time. So I'm glad to see number 6 on the agenda for the retreat about the complaint form. I've mentioned many times that I think this body is well suited to be the place to receive the complaints from the community. Having to go through the sheriff's department to complain about something in the sheriff's department is going to be a non-starter for many people, and nobody will really know what is happening. And so, again, I think that you all have shown a real commitment to service here, and I think this body is a safe space to be able to receive complaints from the community. So thank you.
Thank you. Last call for public comments. There are no public comments on Zoom or in person.
Okay, thank you for your public comments on that item. Let's see. Do we have anything else on our commissioner and any other, has anybody had a chance listening to that or to come up with any other items? If not, feel free to send them to us the end of the week, the beginning of next week, sooner rather than later, so that we can kind of set that list, and then we'll be having a discussion before the retreat. We don't have another meeting before the retreat, do we? No, right. Okay, so item 6, Commissioner and Liaison announcements. Rob.
Thank you, Bill. Since we get these emails and stuff, I'd like to have this this one email. In fact, it was by Nancy, that we discuss the 3 items that she's talking about. The reviewing the findings from Judge Latour's Cadell's upcoming report and making recommendations to the Board of Supervisors in its role in advisory body. It's a discussion item only. Requesting the Board of Supervisors keep Judge Cordell or someone in her capacity for a time period as we would discuss as a board or a commission. And then the third would be looking at the concerns of the deputies about deputy well-being and developing recommendations to the Board of Supervisors. So I'm proposing that as a discussion item for our agenda.
We'll add those to the retreat topics. So they'll be on the list for the retreat, so we can discuss whether we want to prioritize those.
That'd be
Because
great.
really what
That's
we
fine.
want to do in terms of scheduling future meetings for discussion is
Thank you.
have the retreat develop what our goals and our topics are going to be moving forward. And those may be high on the list or that's possible. Rebecca.
I just wanted to acknowledge that I finally rewrote the minutes and I sent them out. And I don't think it's on this list. I didn't realize that, oh, sorry, it's number 4. I see it. Okay. I don't know, I sent it as a reply all.
Yeah, I got it.
I sent it about 4 o'clock this afternoon.
I haven't checked the email since probably 2:30. Yeah.
I wasn't sure who to send it to, but I just did a reply all to the retreat.
Yeah. So in the future, we should not reply all, because then there's a danger that multiple people would respond, which could end up in a Brown Act violation. So communication should either go to staff or to Kalima and myself, and that way then there are only 3 people, the person who sent and the 2 of us receiving it, and we'd never have a Brown Act violation. And staff will get it, and then, it will be, then it can be circulated out by them, and people won't reply. Other announcements? Marco?
It's not an announcement, but I just wanted clarity on what Rob just asked for, because I heard 2 different things. And there's inquiries that come from the community that land in our inbox that Rob is seeking or requesting from the chair, not the county, although he was looking this direction, should be looking that direction. I think it matters, but he was asking for those items to be agendized or to describe a process by which we collectively can agendize those things. I think that's separate from what you said, as opposed to we're going to discuss at the retreat and figure out where our priorities are. I hear separate requests. I don't think those things are the same, right? I just don't want to go into a retreat and say we're going to talk about it then. There should be a process by which we can get those items agendized. And I didn't hear that, and I'm just concerned that, we're going to talk about it at the retreat. So we can specify, I think there's 2 separate processes there.
There certainly can be. What I was trying to get to is that the commission only has so much time and energy to devote to topics or items. So the purpose of the retreat is to establish what do we want to talk about? What do we, not what does staff or anybody else want us to talk about, but what do we as a commission want to spend our time talking about? What are the priorities? What are the goals of this body? And then what are the priorities that we want to talk about? And so these topics would be a topic that we may want to prioritize coming out of that. That would then have a presentation, or we might assign it to a subcommittee of the commission to deep dive, get more information on it, and bring it back to the group. So the idea is we're going to develop a work plan coming out of the retreat, which is what are the things we want to focus on? Is it mail? Is it, hearing from the deputies? Is it, having LaDoris Cordell be, making those kinds of recommendations? So it's really, because we can only do so many topics if we're going to meet 2 hours, and I think we were going to meet once a month. So if we're meeting once a month, that's 12 meetings, and so we have to prioritize what those are. We can't just pull topics out that we haven't prioritized as a group.
No, I mean, I understand that, and I don't want to recommend we meet more, because I don't think I'm going to have support, and I don't think that's what I want. I guess what I'm trying to distinguish is, what is the process for prioritizing these items that are brought to us from the public? And my argument there that those things should be prioritized.
Yeah.
And I get that we're busy. You're preaching to the choir that we have a lot to discuss. I just think that those processes should be separate. I know we have to figure out strategic plans.
No, but I mean, they're all listed.
I get that, but I just think these processes should be separate. And I don't know that a commissioner's ability to request something be agendized should be something that needs to be vetted through that process. Should be something that we can do ongoing.
We will do that ongoing, and I think we will continue if topics are going to come up that we're going to want to talk about. And so I don't think we want to say, no, we can't bring up topics and have them brought up. So I see no problem with that being separate. But the first step is, our next meeting is the retreat, and I think that may even be a topic of, are we only going to do the topics that we decided at the retreat, or are we going to have other topics when a commissioner brings it up or the public brings it up and agendize those?
Understood.
Because we can only discuss them if they're agendized, which means that a month ahead or somebody contacts the chair in between, and then we make a decision to put it on the agenda.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah.
I'm curious if it'd be possible to agendize a conversation about public comment. So that way, at the end of each meeting, we would be able to discuss what we heard from the public and decide which matters we want to pursue further, research more, or perhaps refer to a subcommittee. And I think that way, it would be a very efficient way to deal with all of the public concerns, because we as a commission can decide which parts of the public comment would align with our strategic plan, and we'd be able to deal with it at the same meeting, so the concerns aren't piling up, and we're able to see what people care about and see what's within our purview.
So the Brown Act limits our ability to discuss any item that is not specifically described in the agenda. So the specific topic has to be agendized. You can't just have a public comment and then respond to the public comment, because the Brown Act doesn't allow you to do that.
Okay.
All it allows you to do is say, yes, we'll put this on a future agenda for discussion if there's a decision to do that. So that can be done, but you can't have any discussion about the merits or about the pros and the cons, or taking a position or anything like that.
Got it. So we wouldn't be allowed to discuss at the meeting if we would want to pursue it further?
You can't get into any substantive discussion. So somebody could say, like Rob brought up, I'd like to have this scheduled on a future agenda. So it is going to be listed as part of the topics that can be discussed at the retreat as to whether those should be prioritized or not.
Okay, got it.
And that way we can have a discussion about it. Any other questions, or Shirley?
Sorry. So that brings up the issue whether or not it's appropriate, or if we even wanted to do it, to pass a resolution to voice our support for the child care facility for the sheriff's department. I mean, can we do that given?
No.
Are you sure?
Well, the childcare has not been agendized, so the public has not had the opportunity to comment on whether we should be weighing in on it or not, with the pros and the cons, you know, so without it being specifically agendized. And that, again, the Brown Act creates incredible impediments to be able to deal with things in a timely manner, but it is the law and we have to comply with it, because technically we would be in violation if we had a discussion about an item that's not agendized. And each one of us, it's technically a criminal violation. So we don't want to cross that line. And you know, I don't know, I think most of you are aware, but my background is I was the city attorney for the city of Menlo Park for 27 years and assistant city attorney before that. So I had to deal with this issue all the time, and you have to be very careful about it. So any other questions or comments? If not, then our retreat is on, what is it, November 16th from 9 to 3 at this, yeah, but where's the specific location? Yeah, it's at Kenyatta College, but what's the room there? So, at the Grove Room? Okay. And there will be, it's noted on our website where
The location.
The location and the map, and I think we all received a map as to where to park and stuff for that, right?
Correct, and you're correct, it's the Grove.
Okay, and then the next meeting of this body here will be on November 20th, which will be the same week as the retreat at 6:30 p.m. Okay? And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn? And a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.